Hey Cleveland, this is Anderson Varejão of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You are listening to the Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. Welcome in, everybody. We are live on the air, the Sports Fix, coming back at you guys. Live here from beautiful, and yes, it's held off the winter weather. Still beautiful somewhat for the time here in Cleveland, Ohio, you guys. We are in the new fandangled studios here, and we'll see what goes right, what goes wrong. We'll continue to troubleshoot as we go. I'm just happy to be here, guys, kicking off another weekend. It's been a long, interesting week since we last joined you Monday. Yeah, since we last joined you, Monday happened. Monday Night Football and all of the goodness that came with that. Browns have another game this weekend. Indians, I'll tell you what, Mike Brandenberry, usually, especially this time of Browns season, you start to look to the other areas, the other sports, the other places to find your oasis. Not going to find it in the Tribe Talk much today either. I was getting a little pre-show conversation in with my boy Mike Brandenberry, who's going to join us later on in the first hour from didthetribewinlastnight.com, and I'll tell you what, they're not doing a whole lot to make you feel good over on that side either. Are you serious? I mean, I think we talked a little bit on Monday with the Shane Victorino name that's been bandied out there. And how about the big trade? What do we got? The talk show host? What do we trade for? Colin Cowherd or Colin Cowgill? That's who it was. Either one of them is only good for about $1.88 from the plate. So either way, might have been better off with Colin Cowherd, because at least he's got a built-in promotional audience that could sell some tickets. I'm half joking. But anyways, Mike Brandenberry is going to join us. We're going to talk about the fun that is the Cleveland Indians heading into this offseason here. We're going to talk, of course, about all sorts of things. Cavaliers, hoops. Can't wait to get into some of that as they get back on the court. Tough loss the other day. Dropped their first one at the house, and pretty much the first, I would say, I don't want to say ugly, but definitely the first, I think, just flat-out loss of the season that the Cavs took. The other games, all pretty competitive, pretty close efforts, could have went either way, a few changes down the stretch. This one was pretty much cut and dry most of the way. Washington took care of business on the Cavs the other day. We're going to get into all of that, guys. BJ Rudell, Fantasy Football for Winners, back on the scene today, coming into a timely place as well with fantasy football playoffs either beginning for some of your leagues this week or coming up here in the next week or two. We'll get into all of that, guys, all the news of the day that's going on, and the Sports Fix. Christmas has come early because we are going to kick it off. We're going to kick off the month of December today and every day for the rest of December. Now through Christmas, we're going to give away a little bit of Cleveland sports goodness for each and every one of you guys listening. The opportunity is yours just for being here, and I will get into that in just a moment, how you can win a copy today. It's going to be Cleveland's Finest by our man Vince McKee, a great book on some of the great stories, the athletes, the coaches, the players that have come come through this area and all kinds of different things. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee, a copy of that going to somebody here today, guys. So all of that, so much more to get into. I'm going to crack the phone lines open in the first segment. Let's rock it. Let's roll it. Let's do it. Welcome in, my friends, to the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy, on the microphone. J-Rocc back in the house. Jerry Myers with you here each and every time we get on here doing the Sports Fix thing live across the radio network. Maybe you're tuned in on TuneIn. Maybe you're listening live there. Their digital and mobile apps. Perhaps you're on Spreaker, another one of the main places to get the Sports Fix, especially those of you that listen across digital delay networks. Spreaker, always been a good help with the Sports Fix. They're the ones that helped move us over to iHeartRadio, so many other places. Really a big part of the initial expansion of the Sports Fix. TuneIn, Spreaker. Maybe you're listening live on the sportsfix.net, our home base, which, as you'll notice, will continue changing. It's changed a little bit in the last few weeks. We're overhauling the page, trying to make it more friendly for mobile users as well. Just a lot of tweaks. We've added the TuneIn player on there, which has the archives. It's something that I noticed this week, if you haven't checked it out. It's easier to find the archives now of the most recent shows right on our website. You go to the sportsfix.net, and TuneIn's embedded player has a list of the most recent broadcasts right there for you to choose from, which is a little bit less convoluted than the system that we had before. Good job to my man Sam White, who continues to hook us up on the website. Make sure you bookmark it, thesportsfix.net as well. Holler out to everybody listening. There are thousands of you guys around the world listening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on digital delay all over the place on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on Mixler, which is still being kept alive, by the way, even though it's been pushed to the back burner, on Stitcher Radio, another great platform for you guys, on so many of the different places that you guys podcast, feed, subscribe, download, whatever you do and however you get your fix. I say it all the time. Thank you guys so much. You stuck through a rough patch at the end of the summer and into the beginning of the fall, and we got through all of that, and here we go, rolling into the end of the year. I was going to say rolling into a winter season. We're already there. Even though the calendar, technically, it's still only fall. So many people instantly switched that in December. Still a couple of weeks until we hit the first of actual winter. But as we roll right into it, man, it's going to be fun. And there's a lot of good things, I think, on the horizon heading up into the 2016. Man, just a few weeks away, 2016. Right now, we're talking Christmas. We're giving things away. We're talking to you guys all the time. What do I say? This is not my show. This is your show. And that's why you guys are the most important part of what we've got going on. So get your fix. However you're listening, live, digital delay, pick up the phones. Give me a call. They're open. We're going to get Mike Brandenberry in about 12:40. So you've got about the next 30 minutes if you want to get in on the phone lines. They're open. 216-539-7535. The number to call, 216-539-7535. Or you can hit us up across our social media, not just live, but anytime, day or night. The easiest, most instant impact way to get a hold of us. Facebook, Twitter, email, Facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter at thesportsfixcle, email thesportsfix@AOL.com, Facebook.com/thesportsfix, or simply type The Sports Fix in your Facebook search box. You'll find us as well. You can always find me personally on Facebook, Jerry Myers. You can find my profile there. You can find us on Twitter at The Sports Fix CLE, and email thesportsfix@AOL.com. And all of those are going to come in your sites here in just a moment when you're wondering, how can we win a copy of that book you were talking about, J-Rocc, Cleveland's Finest? We're giving a copy. It's the first of our 12 days of Christmas giveaways here. But talking about authors, just flipping ahead to Monday at the end of this weekend, Dan Coughlin back in the house. I cannot wait. 12:15. If you guys are late goers getting to the show, don't be late on Monday. 12:15 on the dot. Dan Coughlin's going to be in the house, and we're going to talk about not only his latest book on Cleveland sports, Let's Have Another, where he goes through some of the great people and stories and editorials and things that he's been a part of throughout the years and puts them on paper. His third book. The other two were great. The last time Dan was on the show, we've got this thing scheduled for 30 minutes, but the last time Dan was on the show, he just never left. We just kept talking until they threw us off the air. It was a great night. Jonathan Knight joined us. We've got Dan Wismar, who's going to join us as well. Who knows what Monday may turn into. to, but it's going to be a lot of fun when both Dan Coughlin and Dan Wismar are in the house. Make sure you guys do not miss that. And the 12 Days of Christmas continues because one of you listening will win a copy of Dan's newest book, Let's Have Another, right here Monday when we wrap up that conversation. But you're here to win and win today. How do you do it? J-Rocc Daddy, don't tease me. It's easy. All you have to do is tell somebody else to enjoy what you're enjoying right now. Share the show, get the word out there, and you're going to get dropped in the hopper all weekend long. And Monday, I'm going to give away a copy of this book. Somebody that's listening right now is going to win. And all you have to do to pick up a copy of Cleveland's Finest, share what you're listening to right now. Whether you're on TuneIn, Spreaker, no matter what your platform is, whether you're on SoundCloud, whether you're on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, no matter the platform, there's a share button and a share function right there on your listening medium. All you have to do is share the show. Tell somebody else, hey guys, I'm listening to the Sports Fix right now. I'm checking out my man J-Rocc on the Sports Fix. Take a listen to the Sports Fix, and all you've got to do is tag me or the show in the post. Make sure that I can see it. And if you don't know how to do that, share it on our page. Either tag the Sports Fix, tag me, Jerry Myers. Share it on my personal page. Share it to the Sports Fix. Tweet it to us. Email it to us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Screenshot it, however you can do it. All you have to do is share the show, share the love, help somebody else discover what you discovered here. It's the easiest way to grow the show, and it's a time-tested way that we have found new listeners throughout the day. And Charles, I just want to correct, even if you think I follow you on social media, that doesn't matter. If I see it, I see it, but I cannot promise it. You have to make sure that you direct my attention to your entry here, and I'm going to draw a winner all weekend long. So if you're listening on Saturday, if you're listening on Sunday, if you're listening in Sweden or Saudi Arabia or some other corner of the world, then make sure that you know it doesn't matter if you're listening live. All weekend long, you can share the show, tell somebody else to get their fix, and you'll be in. And I'm going to drop it in the hopper. Monday, we'll let you know who's going to get a copy of Cleveland's Finest in the mail. And as a matter of fact, you should get it in time for Christmas. Whether it's for you or whether it's for somebody else, it'll make the great gift for any Cleveland sports fan. And if you don't win, go check out Amazon.com. Go check out my man Vince McKee, and he has got a ton of great sports books for you guys. Great Christmas presents, whether it's fans of the Cavs, the Indians, the Browns, all of that stuff. Make sure you check him out. Vince McKee, he's on Twitter at Vince the Author. And we'll get Vince on the show here in a couple of weeks here and talk a little bit about some of his books and what he's been working on lately. But today, you get a shot to win Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee. Share the show. Tag us in it. Let us know that you did it, and we're going to draw a winner all weekend long. Good luck, and let's kick off the 12 Days of Christmas. We're kicking off the month. We're doing some giveaways. We've got Dan Coughlin coming in on the show. By the way, basketball, you guys, kick off, or tip off, I should say. You know, right around the verge of the two seasons, I always start mixing kickoffs and tip-offs, and it gets all jumbled in my head. Either way, basketball started the other day, thanks to you guys that tuned in over there on 1330 AM, and great start to the season for Willoughby South. I've got the home opener tomorrow, Saturday, for those of you guys listening live. Check it out, 1330 WINT or WINTradio.com. I've got Max Hayes from the Cleveland Senate League. They will be the opponent for the home opener for the Eastlake North Rangers, so it should be a lot of fun, and that one will be on your dial, 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off, live from the gym out there at Eastlake North High School, back on the air doing some high school basketball and the high school sports. Speaking of winding down, I worked my way through the high school football playoffs up until the semifinals when the state takes over. How about St. Ed's, a shot to finish their journey that they've had, not only finish the journey they've had, but Tom Lombardo can set a special precedent for himself if they win by becoming a state champion with not one, but two different high schools. Very rarefied air there for Coach Lombardo. Good luck to the Eagles from St. Ed's this weekend as well. Shout out to the team from out there on my side of town out there, the Kirtland Hornets, as they're also looking to finish things up. I think they play at 10 a.m. tomorrow. What is with that, by the way? You notice that if you're here from locally, all of the championship games, some of them have those early morning starts here, and a little bit different, I guess, their way of trying to schedule everything in and make it convenient for everybody. There's only so much prime time real estate for these games, and there's a lot of different divisional breakdowns and stuff like that. Anyways, congrats to those guys as they wrap up football. Basketball starting up, and let's let's get rolling, you guys, with the show. I see some calls coming in on the line. Quickly, we haven't been on the air since Monday, so let's circle back to Tuesday morning, and here we are. I mean, the Browns, and you know what? It's kind of funny to come back and talk about it now, looking at last night, Thursday night football, and what happened with the Packers. How about the finish of that game? All across my timelines, everywhere, it was the Lions just lost in a complete Browns way. You know, something along those lines was what so many people were posting across the internet because of the way that play went down. If you missed it last night, last play of the game, or should have been last play of the game, they get the foul call for the face mask against the defense, gives an untimed final play of the game, and for the first time in his career, Aaron Rodgers with the Hail Mary bomb, and sure enough, they knock it down. That's the drill. That's what you're taught everywhere. Detroit did not knock it down. The improbable victory for the Green Bay Packers, and I'll tell you, it was. You know, we see a real hot seat. I mean, obviously, hot seat is relative when you're talking about a successful team like the Packers, but they were struggling. The last few weeks have been tough for those guys, and you know they were starting to trend downwards, and especially yesterday, looking like they were getting ready to lose yet another one there. Things could have really started to turn, but how about the way that thing ends? 61 yards. Rodgers to Rodgers, by the way, as it was Aaron Rodgers to the tight end Richard Rodgers, 27-23, and the Lions lose. They come from ahead to lose that one, much like the Browns did on Monday. And I mean, even guys like my man Bruce over here in the chat room, big hardcore, you know, anti-Browns guy and all of that, and it's well known, and he has no problem saying that. I got a feeling that come, you know, what was it, 11:45, whatever time it was at Monday night when the Browns game went to complete disaster, even a guy like that had to go, wow, you feel it there, because that was just, of all the ways to lose, oh, well, hell, of all the ways the Browns have lost, they found a new one. And that was one that I've never seen. I don't think many of you have ever seen that one either. Definitely Browns fans have never seen that one, to be going for the game-winning field goal. And instead, in a matter of 3 seconds or less, you go from, at worst, you're going to go to overtime, or at least that's the thinking, until the kick gets blocked, and then the block gets returned for a game-winning touchdown with no time left on the clock. I mean, just, Bruce, hell of an ending, I guess, man. I mean, that's really the way you put it. From an excitement standpoint, I mean, you can't beat that, because I'll tell you what, many people, blank out at certain parts of a football game, or they look at a clock, or they take conclusions as foregone. Endings like that make you go, damn, and anything can happen in this thing. But I mean, seriously, for the way that went, and the Browns, I mean, the entire game, they give up the punt return early, right off the bat, you're down 7-0. You have the disaster on special teams at the end of the game. I mean, really, to me, Chris Tabor, there's another one that should most definitely be packing his bags at the end of the season. I haven't been a fan of any of the Browns special teams play. I thought the special teams coach should have been gone 2 or 3 years ago myself. Anyway, so I just two complete disaster failures there. I mean, and then the defense doing its thing. I mean, the Browns find themselves in a 17-3 hole right off the bat. And, you know, kudos to the offense, Josh McCown, who is now done for the season after he has taken an unmerciless beating throughout the season and just kept coming back until they done broke him. They done broke him this time, and there's no coming back for Josh McCown. But Browns fought their way back. The defense refused to let them keep any momentum that they got. There was one play, you guys, where it was about a 30-yard completion, and for the life of me, I cannot remember because it was 5 days ago. I can't remember exactly the player, but it was in the third quarter. I'm sure you'll remember as you visualize this, when the Browns threw the ball, the Ravens threw the ball to a receiver. It looked like he was fielding a punt return. I don't recall very often in the NFL seeing receivers as wide open as this cat was on this play. There wasn't 6 Browns in a circle around him within 10 yards in any direction. This guy's literally just standing in the middle of the field. As the ball's coming, his only job is to field the punt return at this point, because all he can do is drop it. And I think it was Gruden who was awful on commentary in this game. But I think it was Gruden that said, what was the coverage on that play? And I said, that's just it. There was no coverage. It's very rare that you see a busted coverage like that where a man is that wide open in the middle of the field. It'd be one thing running down the field. You see busted coverages where a guy gets over the top of the defense. But for him to be in the middle of the field and have 3 or 4 defensive players like zoning around where he should be, but nowhere infinitesimally close to where the man actually is. I could not believe it. Par for the course why Jim O'Neill as well is already working on his his resume. He's trying to figure out how he can skip from 2014 to 2016 without anybody noticing in his resume. Anyways, so it's not like the Browns played this absolutely fantastic game and deserved to win overall. They did fight hard. They did come back. You got to give, again, credit to a guy like Josh McCown. And, I wish Dan Wismar was with us today. I'm going to talk to him about this again on Monday. But you've heard him go on and on and on about the theory that he has that ever since Bottlegate, there's a bias amongst the officials against calls that go against the Cleveland Browns franchise. And this is in no way, it has nothing to do with why they lose all these games per se. But tell me that he doesn't have a point. When you watch some of the egregious hits that Josh McCown particularly took in that game, there were several. How about the one where the cat came over the top, and as one guy's tackling him, the other guy just comes and mugs him down late, hits him in the face and everything with it. You can tell me what you want, but you cannot tell me that the officials do not allow much more egregious contact to the quarterbacks of the Cleveland Browns than they allow on any other team. And I will argue that to the death. And you're talking to a guy who realizes how bad the Browns stink. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm saying, well, the Browns stink because the officials got it out for them. I'm saying along with the Browns stinking, there is most definitely egregious contact in almost every game against the quarterback of the Browns. Whereas around the rest of the league, you can't sniff these guys without a penalty being called. Could you imagine the Mannings, the Bradys, any quarterback, man? I mean, getting mauled the way Josh McCown did, just even Monday, just looking at Monday's game and not getting flags. That one to me with Upshaw, I believe it was Upshaw that came in and hit him late over the top and just shoved him down to the canvas. It's a man's game. I'm all for that. But we're calling stuff on anytime you sneeze near the quarterbacks. And I honestly do believe that the Browns quarterbacks in general take an unnecessary amount of punishment without a coordinating number of calls against them. And that's just me. That's just where I'm at with that. And I'll tell you, that's where it's going to get interesting for the Browns here coming up, because you got Austin Davis who's stepping up and getting the shot, and everybody's going nuts about Manziel. Look, whatever. They're both going to play because neither one of them is going to stay healthy over the last few games. There's no way that either one of those sub 6-foot quarterbacks is going to take the same beating that Josh McCown got and survive. It's just the reality of it is, I think the Browns are going to need another quarterback before the season's over, because I foresee some struggle. I mean, they're both mobile, they're both able to get out, and they're both going to need to run for their lives because the offensive line hasn't protected these guys all season long, and I don't expect it to magically start down in the last few games of the season. Either way, you're going to get a chance. You're a Johnny guy. You're going to get to see him at some point. Davis gets first crack at it. I figure as long as he plays well, or until he gets hurt, he'll keep rolling with it. If he plays well the rest of the season, Manziel will get the last game of the season to go out there and this is his showcase or whatever. Maybe he gets the last 2. If Davis plays he'll only get a game, and then they'll go to Manziel, and then they'll just play whoever they feel like playing the rest of the way, or if he gets hurt. But that's pretty much, I think, the way you're going to see it go. Davis will get first crack because he was the one that was up and able to step in. And say what you want, when he got called upon, he did pretty well for himself. I'm not going to act like he's the next coming of Tom Brady, but he did well enough to me that I have no problem seeing him this week, and then we'll take it from there. But if you're a Johnny guy, stop going nuts. You're going to see him too. Everybody's going to play, and I think a third, you may see Pryor. They may have to sign Bruce Gradkowski from somewhere before they're done, because I think that that offensive line is still going to get them both hurt. And we'll talk some more in a minute. I want to get one of you guys on the phone. Caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
Jerry Myers, baby.
Hey, this is not just my man LG, but I think congratulations are in store for you, my friend. I heard you had an interesting holiday week.
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely, J-Rocc Daddy. I got married Friday.
Oh, my man. I knew that. But for those of you guys listening, LG, put a ring on it, man. Congratulations to you, my friend.
Hey, after 8 years of living together, we felt, why not?
Absolutely. Why not? And I'll tell you what, you know what? That goes with Browns fans. She gets double credit. She's a Browns fan and she puts up with you, man. That's a tough combination, my friend.
Well, obviously, she's really not a Browns fan, and it would be an insult to her to call her a Browns fan. What she is, though, is a transplanted Browns fan because she's with me, J-Rocc Daddy.
LGZ, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? J-Rocc. J-Rocc Daddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
What happened, man?
I don't know.
Hear me no more?
I can hear you. We're back on. It seemed like your audio was dropping out. Go ahead and continue, man.
Well, like I said, she's a transplanted Browns fan because she's with me, brother.
There you go.
But hey, let's get to the Cleveland Browns,
let's get
man.
to them,
come
man.
on,
What's happening, my friend?
We've been through a lot of things together since the Browns returned in 1999, but the ridiculousness that we're seeing this season, it goes on beyond belief, Jerry. Beyond belief is what I'm seeing here with these Cleveland Browns, man. I mean, come on. What are you kidding me, man? Why do you take a quarter? And I'm the last Manziel fan. Believe me.
No.
I don't even have to explain that to you. But why do you take a guy in the first round of the draft? You know what this reminds me of, J-Rocc Daddy? When I participated in high school sports, and I didn't listen to the coach when he told me to get a haircut, and then he wouldn't let me play in the game because I didn't get a haircut. Even though I wore my sports coat, my gold blazer, and my tie that day, that Friday, I was not allowed to participate because my hair was below my collar. You know what I'm talking about?
Let me ask you. So you are in the camp that think that Mike Pettin is wrong for not playing Manziel this week?
No, I don't think he's wrong, but I think that it's obviously I've stated this case before. It's a total waste of another first-round pick. We wonder why this team is the most dysfunctional team team in the NFL. All you have to do is look at the leadership of the Cleveland Browns, from the ownership all the way down to coaching staff ranks. I don't know if you read the last article I published the other day, 5 reasons why the Browns are the most dysfunctional team in the NFL. It starts at the top. It works its way all the way through the ranks. You hire your buddies to be a defensive coordinator. You hire a quarterback's coach with no offensive coordinating experience. I know the old argument, how you're going to get experience if you don't get a shot. But you can't have an entire organization made up of inexperienced people at their positions. You'd think Haslam would have learned something about running a football team when he was a minority owner with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he would have carried that over to Cleveland with him.
Let me jump in on that, LG, because
Jump in, big J-Rocc Daddy.
Bro, I'm with you on majority of the things that you're saying, but I mean, and I guess I am one of the guys that hopes that Mike Pettin's the only one that survives the house cleaning in this, and that's because I really do believe that there is enough good there that is being surrounded by a bunch of crap. Like you bring up the offensive coordinator thing. Last I checked, Mike Pettin hired an incredibly experienced offensive coordinator who had a crappy offense humming along pretty good until his business office got their fingers involved, until his front office got their fingers involved, until his offensive line fell apart from injuries. And yeah, the last 5 games of the season last year went to crap, but they also did something that made Kyle Shanahan, like him or not, a very experienced NFL coordinator, walked up to the Browns and blackmail his way out of the franchise and in the ability to go play somewhere else, who, by the way, were having a pretty good season down there last I checked offensively. And again, I wasn't the hugest Kyle Shanahan fan, although I think his his value is being seen with the problems of the offensive line. I think that he had the same group of offensive linemen blocking much better when he was the offensive coordinator than they are now. And I think part of that is the zone blocking scheme that he had going. So I'm just saying, it is not necessarily his fault. Matter of fact, it's the organization's fault that Mike Pettine lost his offensive coordinator after one season. It is his fault that he has his friend as the defensive coordinator. And now, where a lot of people think that Mike Pettine is truly the defensive coordinator of this team, I actually completely disagree with that. I think that's one of his biggest problems. I think his biggest problem is that he's not stepped in and took over. And I don't think that he is great. Don't get me wrong. His defenses could never stop the run, not even in Buffalo. But I think that he hurt himself because it was his friend. Because I think if that was any other coordinator, you know how there's a lot of good bosses say you have to know when to let go and let your guys do their job. And if they're going to screw up, they screw up. But you can't you have to let them sink or swim. I think that was what Mike Pettine was trying to do. But clearly there came a point where I think he should have stepped in. And to me, if I'm Jimmy Haslam, people ask me all the time, they say, well, what would you do with the Browns? I say, well, they're all going to go. I don't think Mike Pettine is going to survive. But how would you keep Mike Pettine? Here's how I would do it. If Mike Pettine fired his defensive coordinator and the special teams coordinator, I think DeFilippo has done an adequate job offensively. Offense is not the problem with this Browns, although they clearly need to shore up a running game and an offensive line that was highly, highly overrated coming into the season. But either way, I clearly have to fire your defensive coordinator and your special teams coach, and you have to look at me and say, Jimmy, I gave my friend way, way too much time to fix what was wrong, and it was me, and it was my fault, and I won't do that again, and I will be hands-on with this defense, and I will correct the problems. And if I heard that, and I'm firing everybody else, I'm willing to give him another season or two to show me what he can do. And I know there's people that'll flame me and say, this guy, they'll give me 50 things he does wrong. But I also say that I think a lot of what comes down on Mike Pettine is the crap rolling downhill, and he's the one that takes it. Now, you're the head guy, and that's the stuff that comes with it. But there's been so many circumstances around him that I think it's just impossible to judge. Now, hey, that being said, Jimmy may just want to wipe the whole friggin' slate clean, and that's probably what's going to happen. But, you know, I'm just saying, how many rookie head coaches in NFL history have had their general manager suspended for breaking the rules of how you interact with your coaching staff? How many first-year head coaches have had their business office telling their coaching staff who and how to play them and when to play them because the ticket sales and the jersey numbers are good? How many first-year head coaches have had their offensive coordinator walk in with a 47-point PowerPoint presentation and blackmail his way out of the league? I'm just simply saying that, God dog it, I don't know how Mike Pettine has survived this long with all the garbage that surrounds him. And that's all I'm saying. Whether he stays or not, he's probably not. But I honestly think that there's something there to that guy. And I think these cats, some people say they don't play for him. I disagree. I disagree. I think they respect the hell out of him. That being said, it's not working. So they're probably going to dump him. But that's why I stick behind Pettine, because I do believe he's a man's man. I think any other guy in his position right now would have put Johnny Manziel back out there. And you'll say it was a grudge. I disagree with that. I completely disagree. He gave the next man up the opportunity, and the next man up was ready for it. Why wouldn't you reward him with the start this week? You're showing, and as Mike Pettine has done all season long and all of last year, he showed his team, the guys that practice, the guys that play, the guys that give me the effort, I'm going to put them out there first. I'm just saying, that's the reality of it. And if you notice now, a lot of people, it circles back to all the people mad at him right now are the people that think that Mike Pettine is the reason that Johnny Manziel washed out in his first 2 years of the NFL. And I say, hey, that's just being an enabler for a kid that's never going to pan out. But, I mean, either way, I think Mike Pettine's going to get paid for the next few years to be coaching somewhere else. And there's some people going, hey, you're crazy. He's a high school coach, blah, blah, blah. So be it. So be it. I still think that he didn't have a chance to succeed from the beginning that he got in here, man.
Well, you know what, J-Rocc, Daddy, I know you're a Mike Pettin advocate at this point in the career, but I would hate to see the Browns fire the head coach simply because how many times are we going to do that? How many times are we going to start over? And Pettin does have 2 years of being a head coach under his belt now. He came in as a rookie, but he does have some sensibility of what the job entails. He's learning on the job, which all those guys are in the Browns organization. How can you have a general manager that doesn't know the NFL rules? I mean, come on, that's like going golfing and not
let me jump in with
rule.
one thing, too. I've been talking to guys for weeks about this that are on the let's run Mike Pettin out bandwagon. And then I say, cool, give me your list of replacements. Now, let's take Gruden off the top, besides the fact that I don't think he's the right guy. Either way, that's an experienced coach. Let's take him off the conversation. All the names that guys that want Pettin gone are throwing at me are all coordinators who have never been head coaches before. So I'm going, here we go again. You're telling me get rid of high school Mike, get rid of the coach that doesn't have any experience. Well, who do you want to replace him with? Oh, this guy from Denver that doesn't have any experience. Oh, this guy from Seattle that doesn't have any experience. You want to do the whole thing all over again. If I'm Jimmy Haslam, the only way that I fire Mike Pettin is if I've got a bona fide, legit, seasoned, experienced, successful head coach that is willing to come in. If you want to call that Gruden, you want to call that Cowher, you want to get one of those type of guys, we've often mentioned names that are with other teams now, but guys like a Lovie Smith, like a Bruce Arians, guys, you want to give me a guy with a pedigree, then I say dump them all. But if you're going to say fire Mike Pettin for Adam Gase, fire Mike Pettin for Bevel, or for this guy, or for that guy, then I say no. Now, if you do mention Josh McDaniels, I would be interested in that because he has, much like Mike Pettin, he's already been through it once time around. He learned from it, went back and redeveloped himself as a coach. That's one I would be interested in. And if Josh McDaniels wanted to talk, I may be interested in that. He's a local guy, all of that stuff. Although, as Chud showed, being a Browns fan doesn't necessarily make it work. And there you go, Bruce. Like he says in the chat room, Bruce in the chat room, the coaches that I'm talking about don't want to come here. So all you're left with are your Adam Gases, are your assistant coaches, are your guys who are just like Mike Pettin. And if that's the case, then just wait another year. Let Mike Pettin have another year. He cannot retard the progress of your organization that badly because look at the organization we're talking about here, man. Meanwhile, if you wait one more year, he either gets better or now the next time you go looking for a head coach, they go, damn, that guy stuck through. He gave Mike Pettin 3 seasons. He gave Mike Pettin a 3rd season when everybody thought he was going to get fired. All of a sudden, I'm more willing to coach the Browns because at least I know I'm not going to get fired in a week. That's part of it too.
Well, you know what, J-Rocc, Daddy, these people that are on the John Gruden bandwagon, I'm not a John Gruden fan. I've never been a John Gruden fan. John Gruden's a guy that came in. He inherited a great team that Tony Dungy built. We all saw what Dungy did when he went to Indianapolis. We saw the success Dungy's had throughout his entire career. And, after the inheritance wore off, Gruden failed to show that he could have the same kind of success that he had with an inherited team. That's number one. Number two,
hey, real quick,
Gruden's
before you go to number two,
$6.5 million a year on ESPN, J-Rocc, Daddy.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Pay this guy $7 million to come in and coach?
Let me in there. If I'm ESPN, which they don't care, I will say this: Browns lost. Terrible way to lose the game. Let's just talk about the semantics of Monday Night Football. I feel like ESPN took out a grudge on the Browns, on their organization, and on their coaching staff, and on their listening audience for 3 solid hours Monday night. They unprofessionally allowed Chucky Gruden to audition for a job on the air. I feel like he spent 3 hours bashing. Look, Josh McCown had just finished bringing the Browns back from a 17-3 deficit, And the video that he rolls, that Gruden throws for a B-roll, is all the sacks that Josh McCown has taken all season. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is what we're doing. This is a hit piece is what this is. We're hitting Josh McCown. We're hitting the Browns. At the end of the game, when Davis comes in, did you guys hear Gruden go, now Mike Pettin is just, he's making Jimmy Haslam suffer. He's making the Browns fans suffer. First off, Jimmy Haslam ain't suffering. If Jimmy Haslam wants Johnny Manziel to play, Johnny Manziel will play. Jimmy Haslam wanted him drafted, he got drafted. Jimmy Haslam wanted him to play last year, he played last year. Jimmy Haslam learned his Johnny Manziel lesson, and I'm willing to bet 2 weeks ago his meeting with Mike Pettin consisted of just keep the clown out of the newspapers for the rest of the season if you can. And that's probably where Jimmy Haslam stands with Johnny Manziel right now. But either way, Gruden did nothing but spend 3 hours auditioning for a job, in my opinion, and not like the Browns need extra reasons to bash them. They stink to high hell, and we all know that. But it was very personal. It felt like a grudge from ESPN. You know why? Because all the graphics with Manziel had to get thrown out the window. All the ratings with Manziel got thrown out the window, not just on Monday night, but ever since Manziel came into the league. And it was their one final kick in the balls to the Browns for benching Johnny Manziel. And I thought it was incredibly unprofessional. I felt like it was not just a network that was working their own agenda, but it felt like John Gruden was working his own personal agenda for 3 hours on Monday Night Football. Did you get that same feeling?
Absolutely, and I tell you, Gruden is a guy that would definitely work his own agenda, and because John Gruden's all about John Gruden. He
Damn right he
is.
The
Cleveland Browns. What's he want to audition for a job that he's going to refuse to take? I mean, I don't see the Browns making Gruden an offer that's substantial enough for him to leave ESPN.
It would have to be 8 to 10.
They did
8 to 10, wouldn't you think?
Did. Pardon me?
8 to 10 million is what it would take, I think, because he's already getting almost
you
7
from
from
nuts
ESPN.
To pay this guy that kind of money, man.
Absolutely nuts.
But let's just say that the Browns. I say he refuses the offer, J-Rocc. That's what I say. I mean, one of the things you heard Gruden say is, I haven't lost a football game in the last 6 years.
That's it, LG. He's absolutely right. The reason that people want the Browns to pay him that much money is because of the legend of what he hasn't done in the last 6 years, because he hasn't lost a game. The minute you come down and coach the Browns, ask Mike Holmgren and hey, Mike Holmgren didn't do nothing but steal money from the Browns. But ask him what them last couple years of his career with the Browns did to his reputation. It proved to the world that he was just out for himself, and he just came here to snag some money and sip on some umbrella drinks and never really have any accountability. So think about that, man. The minute Chucky Gruden knows that the minute you come to Cleveland, you either turn it around or you'll never have people trying to talk you out of the coaching booth again. He's not stupid, man. That's the problem. You got
the little line there. Turn it around or become the next clown.
That's it. And he's not dumb, because he'll use that leverage, and that's how he'll get $12 million a year. Because he'll look at Jimmy and go, look, if this doesn't work, it's going to ruin my career. So you're going to have to pay me some ridiculous amount of money to get me to do it. And I'm afraid that the Tennessee ties might actually be enough to make that happen. And here's the thing. If you're a Johnny guy, well, that should be music to your ears, because I can tell you now that he'll build the entire thing around Johnny Manziel. And, brother, you think it's been fun now. Wait until that step gets made. I don't think that happens, but
well, J-Rocc, it's like you said earlier in the show today. We're going to see Manziel because Davis and Manziel won't live through all the games we have left.
They can't. And now, I liked what we saw from Davis, but they can't survive.
Came in here and said, okay, I'm going to build a team around Manziel. Obviously, it's not something that's going to happen in a single season. And Manziel would never make it and survive the torture that the Cleveland Browns offensive line will subject him to. What's seriously sick, J-Rocc Daddy, in the first quarter of Monday Night Football, I said, this guy's going to get killed out there, man. It's just uncanny to me how the Browns offensive line with Alex Mack and Joe Thomas is in there. The only guy that's really a new addition is is Irving. Obviously, he's having a bit of a trouble.
Ooh, not a bit, a lot of trouble.
Well, I was trying to be kind because he's a rookie, but
he got pushed back into the quarterback a couple of times, my friend. That's not a little bit of trouble.
And you got to remember one thing that you haven't touched on, J-Rocc Daddy, was this was a Cleveland Browns team facing a Baltimore Ravens team that was missing all their stars, man.
Bro, we beat their starters. We beat their starters 6 weeks ago, and we lost to the B team on Monday night.
Exactly. This was a team of depleted players, man.
I know.
That, that we couldn't even. Well, you know what? I mean, only the Cleveland Browns could lose that game the way that they lost that game.
I'll tell you, here's a couple of things to wrap this up about Monday. Jim Rome put out the perfect tweet, and I'm not the biggest Jim Rome fan with everything he says, but he put out the perfect tweet the other day. Right after the kick, he tweeted, if there's one play that sums up the entire Cleveland Browns post-99 organization, it's the last play of that football game. And he was absolutely right. That was the perfect picture to paint for how the whole thing is gone. It was like peanuts. It was almost like Lucy pulling the ball away from Charlie Brown every single time. That was almost what it looked like. Just a few days removed from Thanksgiving, there was Lucy out there pulling the ball away from the Browns once again, and in front of the nation. They suffered yet another unbelievable really is the word, because even if you didn't like the Browns, you might have said they were going to get beat or smoked or whatever. But nobody can see that because it's so, how in the world? That doesn't even happen on video games, man.
Well, it's like we always say, when it's a Cleveland Browns football game, we could see these guys, if they had a 42-point lead going into halftime, we always question what this team will do to come out and lose the football game in the second half, J-Rocc Daddy.
Yep.
And you can't really blame it on the quarterback this time, no matter who the quarterback is. Especially this McCowan. This guy's got balls the size of King Kong nuts, man, because he was out there. He gave it all. He went back into the game with his arm hanging off his side, man, and he still wanted to play football. You got to give the guy A for effort. He had some phenomenal games this season, but the Cleveland Browns as an organization, it's like Jack Nicklaus used to say about some of the other golfers. The greatest golfer that ever played the game, Jack Nicklaus, always said, you got to figure out a way to win, man. You can be in the hunt all you want, but when it comes down to crunch time, you got to know how to win. And that's something that the Cleveland Browns as an organization haven't figured out. I don't care who the coach is. Another thing that disgusts me a little, J-Rocc Daddy, this team doesn't appear to play for pride either, man. So I don't know where that comes from, if it's a coaching problem or what, but it's a little disgusting. It's a little disheartening. And it's funny seeing all the people that want to boycott the Browns now.
Real quick about that, and we'll end it with this, is when you say that, you could say that we've used that exact same expression, though, for every single team. Yet each one of these coaches, they haven't had 15 awful coaches. Now, most of them have, but there's been a couple, like I personally think, I liked Mangini. Hell, I'd bring him back. I know some people are going click and turn it off right now, but point being is at the end of the season, I think this is a function of a bad franchise. That, to me, isn't the coach, because I don't think in today's NFL, coaches get guys to play harder. They get guys to work harder, to practice harder sometimes, but I don't believe in 2015 with all the greedy athletes that there's many coaches. There might be 3 or 4. Maybe when Bill Belichick talks to his locker room, they listen. But I don't believe that when 90% of NFL coaches talk to their locker room, they get the rah-rah effect, because we're at the professional level and you're either coming to play or you're not. I think that's just more a function of the type of players that are on the Browns roster and the chemical or mental makeup, the heart, all of those things. And I think that too is what separates players in the NFL. The talent is infinitesimal. The differences between Justin Gilbert is an athletic specimen, and if you were just going off athletics, he would be one of the best athletes on the Cleveland Browns team, yet he's one of the worst actual football players on the team because there's a difference, and you know that's part of it too, and it's the makeup. It's not just that the Browns have a team full of crappy physical players. They're either lacking, some of them are lacking the size or the speed, but some of them are lacking the heart, they're lacking the brain, they're lacking and I'm not saying that as an insult, they're lacking whatever it is that the better of the better have. And that comes with being a losing organization. You get guys that slip through the cracks, that are willing to collect a paycheck, or that are overlooked by everybody else, so they're going to try and get an opportunity with you. Maybe 1 out of 20 turns out to be good, but there's a reason that they were overlooked by everybody else. So your talent pool, if you're the Cleveland Browns, is nowhere near as high as for any other team except in the draft. And when you screw that up, you have no chance because nobody's voluntarily coming here to play. So at least the ones that you forced to come here need to be good. And when you're bringing those guys in and they're not good, this is what you get. I got to go, my man. We're up against it.
All right, Big J.
What do you think, LG? Do they pull it together in front of the home crowd on Sunday?
Geez, J-Rocc Daddy, I can't see it happening because only the Bengals are only because of the Bengals are playing some mighty fine football.
They're 9-2, man.
You know, when you have the confidence level flying as high as the Cincinnati Bengals have it right now, it's going to be hard to beat that team. And I'll never say never, but I got to tell you, the odds of the Browns coming off and winning against the Cincinnati Bengals with the kind of football we're seeing right now from the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they've been in some games.
No, I'm with you. The odds are against it. I will say this.
To what I said earlier, they don't know how to close it out and produce the win.
And Larry, I'll say this. If the Browns upset the Bengals, and I can't even say that with a straight face, if the Browns upset the Bengals, that's the only definition of this where you will not see Johnny Manziel play the rest of the season. I will go that far. If that kid, Austin Davis, can somehow upset the Bengals this weekend, he'll get the grip the rest of the way as long as he doesn't get hurt. So we'll see,
somebody
man.
Saw something in Davis when they first brought him.
Right, they signed him. Then again, they saw something in a lot of these bums.
More money and everything else, man. So it's going to be interesting to say the least.
All right, my man LG, congratulations.
To you soon. Have a great week, buddy.
You too, my friend. We're going to hit the break and get you some news. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Mike Brandenburry joins us from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. We have so much more to get into. Good call from LG. And it is what it is, man. It's the end of another bad Browns season. I'm not going to start talking draft just yet. I will at least wait as long as humanly possible for that garbage. But we'll take it for what it is. Right now, we're going to take a break. We'll get you a news update. Let's get Mike Brandenburry in on the conversation as we roll into hour 2. We're going to talk some Tribe, BJ Rudell, fantasy football for winners, talking Cavs, Monsters. So much coming up, guys. Don't go anywhere. Plenty of sports fix still to come. And hey, don't forget, get your name in the hopper. Somebody's winning a copy of Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee. How? Tell somebody else to listen right now. Share it, tag us in it, and we'll put your name in the hopper to win a copy of Cleveland's Finest. It's the 12 Days of Christmas. We roll on next after the news here on the Sports Fix. Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a bison burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Get your fix.
Because it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, Fri Dec!
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Right now, Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers says last night's game-winning touchdown pass to tight end Richard Rodgers was his first Hail Mary ever. He said before last night he had never thrown a successful Hail Mary. With the victory, Green Bay is a half game back of Minnesota in the NFC North. Miami and Missouri will both be introducing their new football coaches today. Mark Richt returning to his alma mater to lead the Hurricanes. Tigers defensive coordinator Barry Odom agreed in principle on a 5-year deal to take over for the retired Gary Pinkel. Houston coach Tom Herman has signed his new contract, and he'll remain with the Cougars through the 2020 season. NBA Bulls guard forward Mike Dunleavy expected to be out at least 4 to 6 weeks for additional rehab on his back, reports Yahoo Sports. Dunleavy, who has yet to play this season, suffered a recent setback in his push to return to the lineup from a back procedure. College basketball, top-ranked Kentucky, not sure at this point about the status of forward Marcus Lee for the next game, December 9th versus Eastern Kentucky. He had a headache and nosebleed following a collision that kept him out of most of last night's upset loss at UCLA.
Sports Center is brought to you by JCPenney. Hey guys, find the perfect gift for her during our holiday jewelry sale, where you'll find amazing deals on jewelry. JCPenney, where giving begins.
Thank you for calling the Sports Fix. May I ask who's calling?
Dark Helmet! I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
So what does that make you to the show?
Absolutely nothing!
Call the Sports Fix, even if you have nothing to say at all.
By the face, he talks about the people going under. Revelation knows. And cries like lost, cries a man decides after 17 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door.
That's right. Doesn't matter if it's the seal version, mushroom head, they got it right. We got it wrong. All of us, any of us here, doing the Cleveland sports thing for the last God knows how long. I think we're all crazy. That's for sure, man. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. That's what makes us that's what makes us Cleveland, baby. And We have a shared experience. I don't know. So do like victims of war crimes and prisoners of war. I mean, I guess some shared experiences are better than others. I'd much rather just share a trip to the zoo with you guys than what we've had for a while. But anyways, welcome back into the Sports Fix. J-Rocc with you. Mike Brandenberry with me on the hotline. I'm going to pull him up in a second. You guys rolling along as always. We've just hit hour number 2 here, Friday edition of the Fix. 216-539-7535. Leave your take all weekend long on anything we're talking about. LG, good call in the last segment. Talking some Browns and all that circular conversation that never ends. That's what I mean. We're crazy. We're all crazy for doing it. At least I can blame it on the job. I mean, I can always lay on that. What's wrong with you? Oh, it's a job, Otherwise, I'd be, out there reporting on recycling or something much more exciting and interesting. But it is what it is. You guys, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Twitter @TheSportsFix, CLE, email TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Let's roll on. Don't forget BJ Rudell coming up about a half hour from now. He's going to join us doing some fantasy football for winners right now. We're going to talk a little Tribe, maybe a little Cavs here with my man Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. And they didn't because they played. And if they continue this offseason the way it started, they might not win for another 2 or 3 years after that. We're not... at least Mike and I are in agreement on this week's conversation. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. How you doing, my man?
What's going on? You should have just segued when you were saying the Browns are in that was a circular conversation that is the Cleveland Browns. You should have said, speaking of circular conversations, let's go to the Cleveland Indians because they run in their own circle.
Brother, I said at the beginning of the show, I said, man, usually I've got this thing down to a science. We know where the oases are when we're talking, whether we got Browns or whatever. I said, man, they're really strapping it to us here this year because now we can't even go. All we got is the Cavs floating around right now, man, because the Indians, it is what it is. If you're a Tribe fan right now, I'm going to tell you that you're either going to 100% agree with probably both of us here or you're not going to like a single thing that you're about to hear because, Mike, I don't know where you are. Dan Wismar and I, well, I do know where you are, but they don't. Dan Wismar and I on Monday started this week talking about Shane Victorino and the insanity that name came back out. And what made me so mad about it was the way Paul Hoynes reported it. It was reported as if, it was just reported so nonchalantly and matter-of-factly that I'm like, how is this okay? Like, it's one thing if everybody's up in arms, but we reached the point where the beat writer for the Indians is just like, hey, yeah, well, let's skip past the top 12 or 13 prospects here, and let's move to the guy the Indians have made an offer on. And it's the same guy who turned him down for the Nick Swisher contract 3 years. Technically, I blame Shane Victorino for Nick Swisher, but either way, same finish. How in the world? This to me would be like the Indians re-signing Nick Swisher now. Like if he was a free agent right now, the fact that Shane Victorino's name has come up since his career has followed Swisher's path the last 3 years. 1, okay season. 2, absolutely garbage-filled, injury-filled season. I think he had 7 hits last year or something like that. This is like signing Nick Swisher again. Like, that's the stupidity of names like that are out there, let alone the fact that we just traded for a talk show host.
Yeah,
I know it's not really Colin Cowherd, but still.
You almost took some of my thoughts right out of my mouth when you said that. I was blown away in a number of regards when I heard the great Shane Victorino's name. First of all, it's like the Indians are just bound and determined to give that 4th year of a bad contract to a 35-year-old veteran away. They tried to give it to Victorino 3 years ago, and he wouldn't take it. So they're going to offer him that terrible 4th year now. They got kind of out of that deal with both Bourne and Swisher, so they feel like they have to make up for it somehow. I guess paying them to go away wasn't enough. They'd like to kind of recoup maybe that $5 million they saved and waste it on Shane Victorino. But I mean, I completely agree with you. I was blown away by that discussion. And then I think the two things that I took away from it is that what is saddest for me is that you talk about, you were like blown away and speechless and upset at the thought I was blown away that I felt like I was the only one, and then that maybe you are the only one too. But the Indians, I know I texted this to you this morning when we were talking. I've been an Indians fan my entire life, and after 30 years, I feel like I'm 10 years behind where the average fan was. 10 years ago, the average fan, in their opinion, saw the light and said, this team is never going to be competitive. And they haven't truly completely walked away from it, even when they say that. But the Indians and the Browns are running this risk right now too. They're just becoming background noise. You're still interested, but you're not invested, and you'll keep it on. But if it's a sunny day on Sunday afternoon, you might go outside because they're not going to win. And the same thing with the Indians. There's no uprising, there's no rage, there's no upset at the idea of signing a 35-year-old who's injury-plagued and had a terrible season. No one cares. And I'm blown away that the second point is I feel like the remaining fans that they have conditioned them to accept that the Indians can only fish from the bottom. Because I'll tweet things like, something like when they acquired Colin Cowgill. We could talk about him in a minute because that'll just be riveting. But when they acquired him the other night, I was like, I smell another platoon coming on, and people were like, well, he makes them slightly better. And I'm like, I'm not, and other people are like, well, it's not their last move. And I'm like, well, no, I don't think it's their last move. And they do he does make them slightly better, and okay, that's all fine. But the idea that it's December 4th and we've laid out a map where we're going to run a right field platoon of Lonnie Chisenhall and Colin Cowgill, like why are we accepting this? Why are fans accepting this? And why is this close if it's not plan A? Why is this so far up the list of potential plans for the outfield that there's a fair chance we're settling for this on December 4th? We have 3 months until we play even a pointless spring training game, much less meaningful games.
Mike, I am in 100% agreement with you. And like I texted you this morning when we were talking about this show, I honestly feel, and I'm one of those guys, and some of these guys, like I can see I'm agitating my friend Bruce over here in the chat room as we speak, but some of the Indians fan base the ones that still stick by what they're doing may not like where we're going with this. But as you and I were talking about this morning, I am one of the people that will never, ever allow you to tell me that every single one of these owners in Major League Baseball is not profit sharing and that the Dolans are profitable before they sell ticket number 1 and before they open door number 1. And if you don't believe that, you are fooling yourself and you are being foolish. The Indians are not in business to give away money every year. They are making money hand over fist, and you're foolish if you don't believe it. And what I feel, and I think you're right there with me, is that the last few years of not drawing at the gate, I think the Indians are now, I don't want to say spiting their own fan base, but I think now it's almost like they're trolling the fans when they'll make a trade for Colin Cowgill and go, hey, the Indians just acquired this 188 hitter and settled arbitration with him right away, so you don't have to worry about any contract problems with this guy. And they're so utterly clueless. We talk about the disconnect. In the last week, I have watched the Indians tweet about ridiculous things. Let's see, there was the day Kobe Bryant announced his retirement, and the Indians decided to tweet a picture of Kobe Bryant in an Indians jersey. And there was something else that they did the other day that had nothing to and you can say, well, that's just having fun with the social media or whatnot. Point being, I think that the Indians are absolutely not just clueless to public perception, but I also think they don't care. I think they are dead set on saying, hey, we get paid one way or the other. We're going to continue to do it this way. I feel like instead of adding a few million, I feel like the Indians' objective this offseason is to save money somewhere, because it almost feels to me like their job is to make up as much Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne leftover expenditures as possible in this offseason. Am I crazy? Or does it feel like they're looking at the fans, hey, you all don't want to come out and watch it? That's cool, because we're getting paid one way or the other.
I think you are dead on in everything you said. First of all, I mean, go back to your whether they make money or not. I think there are different levels of profiting, and maybe the Indians aren't in the top levels of profiting among Major League Baseball teams, but I think that they all profit. I think their national television deal split up 30 ways guarantees that all 30 teams profit. And I think your big market teams profit more. I think your teams with huge local TV deals profit more, and that's where the Indians don't come out as well as other teams. But I do think when you take your national TV deals, the deals they have with Fox and ESPN and TBS, and you cut those deals up and they all divide 30 ways, when the Indians get their 1/30th of that pie, they've profited. And I agree with you. And I think part of, you talk about their public perception, I don't think it's a thumbing of the nose. I think their PR is built the same way that they operate in building their team. It is this is the way that we've done it. This is the way we want to do it, and we're smarter than you. I mean, the front office operates, the baseball operations side operates with this nose in the air attitude, this stigma that we're the smartest people in the room, and you're either with us. I always say you're in the tribe or you're not. You're either with us or you don't know what you're talking about. And if you're not in the tribe, then you're not allowed to have, the perception I always get is if you're in the tribe, you eat, sleep, and breathe everything that they say, and you accept it as scripture. And if you don't, then you're not a good fan. And there's no in between. And I think that, as much as anything, that is the same way that they kind of promote themselves. And it has turned off 95% of their fans, because if you have your own opinion, if you have your own ideas, and you don't just slurp up what they're serving, then you're not with them. And so then you must be against them. And that's not how sports works. And I think, even from their social media aspect, I think it's very reflective of the fans that they get. I think people your age and my age and older, people, and I'm speaking generally at this point, I'm generalizing, people who have families, people who have good paying jobs, and people who have schedules, who have lots of things to do. If you have kids, if you have numerous things to choose, I mean, Jerry, I'm as big a baseball fan today as I was 10 years ago, but I don't go to near as many games because my kids have swimming lessons and soccer games. And I'll be honest, my kids are a little younger still at this point, but I mean, it's a whole different can of worms, but they don't want to sit through a 3.5, 4 hour baseball game. And I'm cool to hang out in the kids' clubhouse and do stuff like that too. But to be honest, there's a park in my neighborhood that's free. I don't need to buy a baseball ticket to take my kids to a playland if that's what I want to do. I want to watch a baseball game. I want to watch a good baseball team. And when I think about going to a game, I'm like, why do I want to dedicate that time and effort to watch mediocrity? I can put it on my TV and go do something with my kids. It just becomes background noise. And I think you talk about their social media, reach and the way that they behave. I see the same stuff, and I think it's ridiculous as a becoming middle-aged man, the way that they treat some of their fans. I'm inclined to not buy tickets in the way that they treat and interact with people. And I think that goes back to they don't care. And I also think it goes to the 20-year-old crowd finds that kind of humor funny. And I honestly think they get a good pull in the, 18 to probably 32-year-old demographic in there. And honestly, it's probably because they don't have as many scars and they don't they've been lied to as long.
I'm going to throw this in here too. I see this problem in other entertainment forms and other sports teams and stuff as well. They have a front, and it falls right into that being the smartest guy in the room, being a little younger, more technically in that realm. There's a whole grouping of executives, especially younger ones, that have convinced themselves into the social media metrics being a good driver of interest, popularity, all that stuff. I see, now they've created the basically the Nielsen Twitter ratings, where they'll now try to correlate the TV ratings to the tweets about certain shows. And what I'm finding out, and so many businesses have not discovered this yet, but if you do some research, it's very easy to find. That's one of the most Trojan horse statistics that's going around now, and businesses are running themselves right out of business by allowing their social media numbers to be indications to themselves of whether their product is successful or not. Because to me, what I've seen and what's been proven is what social media is not necessarily indicative of a wide-ranging group of fans and interests. What it is indicative of a very small niche audience of a product being incredibly socially active in their representation. Like, I'll use wrestling because it's something that I do. WWE has a big show on Monday nights. They get paid millions and millions of dollars to put on their little 3-hour Monday Night Raw show. And the ratings for the last couple of years have trended downward. They're at all-time lows now, yet at every corporate, every 3 months, they have a board holder, shareholders meeting. They trumpet every 3 months that they've got the highest social media numbers, not just of entertainment, but of sports. They're higher than the NFL. They've got more followers. During their shows, more people tweet than tweet during NFL games. Yet every single week, the actual rating is a little bit lower than it was the week before. But you can't tell them that they're not more popular than ever because of the niche social media reach and how it's like 10 people, but if they each tweet 100 times during a TV show, it looks like you got 100,000 responses. Meanwhile, it's that kind of thing, and I see that kind of mentality fits right into what you're talking about. These guys will fool themselves right out of business. That's why I think Toronto's going to be an interesting experiment for us here in Cleveland. Mike, what do you think?
I have to tell you, and I sound, and I know exactly what I'm about to say, sounds like the guy standing watching the train wreck and is excited. But I am as excited to watch the Toronto Blue Jays for probably the next couple to 5 years as I am to watch any team in the game. Agreed. Because you and I and all of us have been told for a decade plus that Mark Shapiro could go somewhere else anytime he wanted. And Mark Shapiro, we should be lucky to have Mark Shapiro. And if Mark Shapiro had a big budget, what he could do. Well, he's got it all now. He's got a big network. He's got a big area to draw from. He has a bigger budget than he's ever had. He's putting together the Indians of the North exactly the way that he wants. He's getting every Cleveland Indians affiliated person that he can.
He sure is.
And so, I mean, he's got everything that people have told us that if he had, he would set the world on fire. And in a lot of ways, I really don't care if he's a winner or not. I really just care to see the answer because because if you're asking me, my gut is they're going to win a lot of seasons of 80 and 81 games just like the Indians do. And they're going to have the same type of mantra, and their fans are going to grow to become very frustrated with them. He's going to get the Indians of the North, the positive and the negative of it, very quickly. That's my guess, but I'm interested to see how it plays out.
See, and I'm with you. That's where I was going with it. Is I think it'll answer the question, the chicken and the egg kind of thing. It'll answer the question. Were the Indians front office doing the best they can with limited resources, or
were they just doing the best that they can?
Right,
period.
And they just weren't any good at what they do. And now we'll find out because they can spend what they want. They can do what they want. They got the dream. If you've been in Cleveland for 20 years, going to a place with a big payroll and an ownership that's behind behind you, that's a dream job right there. That is making it to the show and seeing what you can do with it. And so it's going to answer questions about them and about the Indians at the same time. And they could be proven to be a bunch of idiots. And then we'll go, well, no wonder we couldn't get anything going. But if they go there and they make moves and they put things together, then you go, oh, well, maybe that was it. It'll be very interesting.
And to kind of expand on that, Jerry, and this is where some of my current frustration is too, and I really don't want to make this a Browns and Indians conversation, but where we chastise the Browns for always blowing it up too soon, the Indians, without blowing it up, I mean, I feel like they had a really nice opportunity here to bring someone or someone's into the group, to the table, to have a different point of view, a different perspective.
Right.
And this is where it takes me back to, you're either in the tribe or you're not. And they don't want anyone else in their tribe. Their front office doesn't want anyone else, because as every person leaves their organization, they don't go out and hire someone else. They just promote from within. It's the same guys at the table that were there, 6 months ago before Mark Shapiro left. They just have less chairs now. They've just all got new names.
They all get paid a little bit more. Yeah,
they're all talking about the same thing. I mean, because Mike Chernoff's now GM instead of assistant GM, do you think he has brand new ideas? I mean, he's got.
And
the
by
same
the way,
ideas
let me add to that.
Ago.
Let me add to that is also, don't you think that from a competitive standpoint, if I'm the Indians and part of my front office has left, I mean, clearly they leave with knowledge of your entire organizational plan. They know the players that you got on the board. Now, I'm not saying you blow your whole organization up, but I shake things up internally because I know that there is now a competing front office that has the book of my book, and they know exactly what I want to do. That's part of changing your mentality too. And you and I talked about that when Shapiro left, when the whole deal went down, and I was wrong because my hope was that it would lead to exactly what you just said, that maybe some guy who has been sitting in the corner with a notepad and going, well, if they ever ask, I would try this, or maybe I would do that. And my hope was that there would be some fresh breath of air into the groupthink. But you're absolutely right. As of now, it appears that they just tighten the circle and they're going to continue on full steam ahead. Meanwhile, we get our email today about the Tribe Fest because, again, it speaks to public perception. When people are going, hey, winter meetings start this week, what are the Indians going to do? You trade for Colin Cowgill and then tell me about Tribe Fest, which if you don't do anything, 14 people will be going to Tribe Fest.
Hey, but you can pay an extra $15 and Jan Gomes could serve you a beer or something now because it's not at the park this year. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. I think because Jan Gomes is going to be, and you talk about, the group think and the playbook. What I think is hilarious is I don't think you have to worry about anyone knowing their playbook.
No.
Their playbook hasn't changed in 20 years. Jerry, you and I know their playbook. You don't have to be a great baseball mind. We can write their PR stories for March right now. Are you ready? Jan Gomes is back. He's going to be healthy for the first time in a year. And it really hurt his offense because of his knee injury, and all of his metrics are going to be better. That's our impact player. And they improved defensively so much. That ill has been healed, and they're a much better team, and a full year of good defense is going to improve everything. And they have a core of a starting pitching. We can write the story.
And a new focus on April and May. Yeah, absolutely. They're I know. You can hear it all coming. Plus they got Joba Chamberlain.
Tell everybody not to worry because it's the same record as what they had last year. It's the same way in free agency. Do you think when teams that are pursuing marquee players are like, who could be after this team? Do you think they're ever looking at the Indians? No. Don't worry about the Indians snaking Colin Cowgill from them. They know the Indians playbook. It's been the same for 20 years. It hasn't changed. When the When the names making the moves don't change, it's the same.
I'll tell you what.
I hate to make it sound so simple, but everybody plays fantasy sports. If you've played fantasy football with the same 10 guys for 5 years,
you
know who might trade for a quarterback that got hurt yesterday.
Bro,
you know who's not paying attention. You also know who's going to be on the waiver wire the next morning snaking the backup running back of the guy that got hurt. You know who's with it, and you know who's not.
Mike, I think the Indians still have Josh Willingham and Kendrys Morales at the top of their wish list. I mean, That's how much the list doesn't change for 5 or 6 years in a row. I believe those cats are sitting right at the top of the well, if Kendrys Morales comes free, maybe we can get him on a 1-year deal over here in Cleveland, man. Sure. And, the thing with the trade for Colin Cowgill is, some people, I wouldn't be upset if it was one of those where okay, that's just a depth move. But no, for a fact that trade was made because the Indians now feel that they've addressed right field. It's going to be Lonnie Chisenhall and Colin Cowgill in a platoon in right field. They have now addressed the position. That wasn't a trade for depth. It wasn't like, well, we traded for this guy, but we're really going after this bigger fish. No, that is your rotating outfielder right there. Welcome him to Progressive Field.
Yep, you're right. I mean, and that's their solution, and they're gonna put a Band-Aid on left field for 2 months and say, well, there we go, and Abraham Almonte center, and see you in June.
Yeah, Shane Robinson or one of the prospects will be a Band-Aid for a minute, and that's it. Jabba Chamberlain's going to come in and shore up the bullpen as well. There's another one. That at least feels like the typical
Band-Aid for everyone.
Yeah, team taking a flyer. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you what. And again, I said it when we began. Wasn't trying to do, but this is not one of those, well, we'll see what they do in a couple of weeks. If they do something, it's only to me, and I think you alluded to this when we were texting earlier, it's going to be a trade that hurts you more than it helps you when you trade some piece of true organizational depth for a mediocre player. Like I was joking, Dan Wismar and I last week when we heard the Carrasco or Salazar for Brett Gardner type rumor, and we're like, are you serious? What front office would even entertain such a conversation, let alone let it become public knowledge?
Yeah, if that happens, you'll have to find somebody else to talk to about the Indians because I won't.
I'll stop talking about the Indians. What do you mean? I'm done too. We'll be talking. I'd rather talk about the Browns at that point, man.
Easy now. You might want to just, I don't know, rename your show.
Bro, I'm going to work for PBS. I'm just going to tell you now. They've got me on the verge of, I saw Idea Stream has got a couple of job postings on their website. I'm getting ready to just go join National Public Radio. I think Cleveland Sports has just about tuckered me out, man.
Yeah, it's a tough act to follow for a long time. So I'm telling you, I've taken up golf and running in the last 2 years, and it's nice. It's nice. I spend a lot less time worrying about things like the Indian bullpen. It's a lot better for me.
Absolutely right. So clearly, Mike Brandenberry not in the line waiting for Tribe Fest here. I highly doubt that anything they do between now and our next conversation will kick that up. But the winter meetings do start. So if you're a frustrated Indians fan, the next 2 weeks of your life is going to suck really bad because it's going to be full of signing, trade, signing, trade, Colin Cowgill. So you're going to be mad at every other team out there except the Indians have done nothing. You just don't even worry about the winter meetings, guys. The only thing that can come from this is probably something that's going to be a negative. So, hey, at least the Cavs are rolling. I know they lost a game the other day, but you can't possibly be tripping this early in the season, are you, Mike? Are you with me, Mike? Oh, I think I may have lost him. Yeah, I did. Sorry about that, guys. Mike Brandenberry fell out there. Did the tribewinlastnight.com. I think it's up against it for him anyway. So we'll get Mike back in next week and continue. Well, hopefully we don't continue this doggone conversation, but we'll continue a conversation with Mike next week. You guys can check him out, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, on didthetribewinlastnight.com. Don't go anywhere. Final break of the show. When we come back, BJ Rudell on the hotline in the house. Fantasy football for winners. We'll talk about all the things coming up this weekend weekend, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of the Sports Fix. Plenty of Sports Fix coming up next. Led off by B.J. Rudell. Fantasy football for winners. It's next on The Fix.
It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. And no matter who you root for, everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Every Sunday, all the Browns action with Bud Light beer specials and $10 hair of the dog pitchers.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. That's some fun.
Plus, every Monday night, catch the Monday Night Football action with some of your favorite Browns players. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey, everybody. Listen up.
Listen up, guys.
Hey, guys. Listen up. No one should ever hit a woman.
Not their wife, not their girlfriend, not their date. No woman should have to fear violence.
Especially not from someone they know and trust.
But that's the reality for too many women.
We have to change it. It's up to each of us, because even one is too many.
Violence against women hurts all of us. Growing up, I was ashamed and afraid of my father when he abused my mom.
The worst abuse of power is when a man raises his hand to hurt a woman. We all have to take responsibility. So if you see someone threatening a woman, step up, speak out, and get help.
Dating violence hurts all of us. So step up and help end it. Because one is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
One is too many.
End the violence. Because it's wrong.
Because one is too many.
Hey, Sports Fix fans, I'm Fred McLeod, TV voice of the Cavaliers. When I'm not busy taking elbows from my buddy Austin Carr, I'm tuning in to see what the guys are saying on 1420 WHK.
Well, I wondered how long it was going to take. It did take until the third commercial break of the broadcast to find a glitch. I told you guys earlier in the week, switching all the software over, when all the files that you hear that make up the music, the commercials, the liners, all those different things, when they transferred over, some of their tags didn't transfer right, and clearly that was one of them. Fred McLeod, my man. Although, interesting that he said WHK. That is, of course, where the Sports Fix started, and I had an interesting conversation this week. That's all I'm going to say. Coming up after the first of the year, could be some really interesting times going down, and we'll talk some more about that as we go. But thanks to Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com for the last segment, even though the call dropped right at the end. Thank you, and as always, can't wait to get Mike back up on the show. Thanks to everybody that's been with us now. B.J. Rudell waits on the hotline. We're going to do some fantasy football for winners. You guys keep your questions coming in. Facebook, Twitter, email, facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter @thesportsfix, CLE, email, thesportsfix@AOL.com. I'm going to get this thing rocking and rolling with my man, B.J. Rudell. It's been a few weeks. It's time for some fantasy football for winners. B.J., how you doing? How was your holiday, my friend?
Great, J-Rocc. Great. We're family right now, actually, in Southwest Florida. So, hello from Pincher's Restaurant in Southwest Florida. How was your holiday?
Oh, it was fantastic, man. No complaints here, and rocking and rolling. It's a couple of weeks for us. And you know what? Before we get into like the players or any tips you may have for this week, I gotta say, I was thinking about our talk before the show, and it made me realize some things about basically my last 5, pretty much every season that I've played fantasy football, I have now had the exact same pattern, and this season is coming in nonetheless. Talk to me if you see this phenomenon a lot. Basically, all of my seasons start off pretty good, win the first couple of games, hit a patch. I basically come into the tail end of every season 2-6, 3-7, something like that. But then I'm every year nonstop. I make a run out last 5 or 6 games down the season because it means to me that I've done a good job of getting guys ready that are, looking ahead to the end of the season. And I've made playoff runs. Like last year, I won the ring in the one league, and it was all based on that last season win, or you go home and I just win for 6-7 weeks in a row. But how do I keep getting myself in that position where the beginning of the season stinks, but then I'm really ready to rock and roll at the end?
Yeah, that's the constant battle, is getting a team ready for the playoffs, but also making sure that you get to the playoffs. So 2 things. It's the players who are supposed to perform who haven't. We look at running backs like C.J. Anderson, Jeremy Hill, who were top-rated going into the season that didn't do much for the first, in 6 of the first 9 weeks, pretty much they all fell flat. You look at quarterbacks, you look at people who overplayed Peyton Manning, overbid on Russell Wilson, and so on. And then the flip side, you look at the guys who, you pick up through free agency, a tight end like Gary Barnidge, a running back like Charkandrick West, guys who, you pick up in week 5, week 7, whenever, and they become every week starters. So the key is, when do you hold on to guys, and when is it too long to hold on to a guy who just isn't having a great season? And then the second part is, can you be on the waiver, order in a good place where you can pick up a high-priced free agent before that person becomes high-priced, so that, you're not, if you're 8th on the waiver pick because you're 4 and, 5 or whatever, you're never going to get an elite free agent pickup. So how do you spot those guys ahead of time so that you can build up your team, to help support the guy, the fact that you're not getting great production out of your star players. So it's those 2 things, and it's a perfect storm of badness when you're not getting the free agent guys, and the guys who you put a lot into, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round picks, aren't performing. And all I can say is that at a certain point you cut bait. At a certain point you have to decide, if you're 2-4 to start the season, that's the time to look at your team and say, are these guys planning to turn it around in the next week or 2? And if they're not, let's trade them to someone who still thinks they can have value for the fantasy playoffs and get some good value in return, because at that point you're just hoping to go 5-2 the rest of the way to have a chance at the playoffs.
Speaking of playoffs, how are you looking heading into your run? Most leagues either getting into their playoffs here or in their last week or so of the regular season.
Yeah, I'm in 3 leagues. I had everyone has devastating losses. My loss, and you'll feel this one too, was I was playing the guy last week in my 20-team league that had the Ravens defense. So I just needed to make sure he didn't get 11 points out of the Ravens defense.
Oh, they got you.
And so that blocked kick for a touchdown, that was the difference. I was up 5, and I thought, if we just go into overtime, I'll be fine. And that was the difference. He ended up winning on that last play. So I lost 3 straight there. I was 7-2, and now I'm 7-5, and I have to win out to get in, which I don't like doing. And then in my other 2 leagues, I'm 7-5 and 9-3. And so, in the 7-5 one, I know exactly where I messed up. I drafted Aaron Rodgers in the 2nd round. This was not a year to draft quarterbacks early, when you could get Blake Bortles or Derek Carr or any number of guys down, the bottom of the trash heap, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and still get just as good value as if you drafted Aaron Rodgers in the 2nd round, almost, most weeks. So, there's a lesson learned on that, and it's hard to be able to anticipate it, but all I can say is a 7-5 team. I picked up Thomas Rawls a couple weeks ago, and I'm positioning myself where if I win out, I'll be fine. How about you?
Did we have to ask? No, I'm in three main leagues myself. I'm in a great position in the Sports Fix League. I'm right underneath the top couple teams. I'm looking to finish. I'll probably be 3rd or 4th in the playoffs I think we've got 2 weeks of regular season left in that league. And then my 2 money leagues, that followed the pattern that I pretty much described at the beginning. I went through a really bad stretch early. I'm winning out late, but it looks like in one league it's probably going to be too little too late. I need everybody to lose and me to win out to make something happen. My other league is really competitive. You've got 2 teams at the top that are locked up, and then you have got about 7 teams that are a game above, even, or a game below each other, where really the last 2 weeks will determine who gets in. So a lot of fun here. And I am in good position now. Like I said, I've got, I was able to, I saw Freeman coming, so I was able to pick up, the backups in all the key places, to where now I'm like, man, this is great. Stashing Thomas Rawls worked out well for a couple of weeks there. Although, of course, the week that he went off for 42, I didn't have him, because who saw that coming? I didn't think he was going to play, and I lost that game.
An hour before.
I lost that game by 4 points or 5 points or something like that, and I'm like, damn, I got 40 of them on the bench right here with one guy. Those kill you.
And this is a big takeaway from this season, and it's true most seasons. Getting backup running backs. If you have, and this is a good lesson for everyone. A lot of people already know this, but if you've got, let's say, 6 bench spots, and you're looking at week 4, and you're going to have guys on bye, and you've got to swap people out. I understand. Okay, you got to make sure you can field a competitive team. But in pretty much every circumstance, if I had to choose between a number 2 tight end and a handcuff running back, I'm going handcuff running back. If I have to choose between a backup quarterback, because week 7 my starter is on bye, and it's week 4, and I'm getting ready for that by making sure I have a good, quarterback for that 1 week, no, I'm taking a handcuff running back. At all times, any available spot that isn't absolutely needed for an immediate win needs to be held by a backup, a running back. And I talked about this on my blog about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I rattled off a list of guys who everyone should have on their roster. 5 weeks ago, I picked up Jerick McKinnon and Jeremy Langford in my 20-team league because, heck, I had, some empty bench spots. And so I picked up a couple handcuffs. Forte got hurt. Langford took over. I was able to trade him for Ben Roethlisberger. So, you by getting backup running backs, you are creating the potential for more value than getting a second tight end or a backup, a second quarterback or whoever in almost any circumstance. That's how it holds, because running backs are scarce at this time of year, a great, dependable running back. So if you have a guy who, if you picked up David Johnson, a guy I've been pushing for most of the season, because Chris Johnson's 30 years old and he had a 3.3 yards per carry for 3 straight weeks on average, and he seemed to be running out of steam. He got hurt, but he seemed to be running out of steam. Andre Ellington was a constant injury risk. If you were smart enough to pick up David Johnson, hold him on your team, you've got a top 15 running back the rest of the way.
For sure. Absolutely. And again, that's what I say, man. I mean, I try each year to tweak it, and I was looking at it today, and I'm like, man, how do I keep following the same pattern? Because I've definitely learned from you the last few years in our conversations on getting those guys that I go, man, I'm positive come week 8, 9, 10, 11, this is going to work out. I've listened to you all along, right. But now I just got to figure out how to get the front end. Drafting C.J. Anderson didn't help a brother out very much this year. And I was mad at myself for that. I've got to be honest, and I'm sure many people out there can say I agree with that sentiment. I never fall for that hype. I pride myself in sticking true to the guys that I know. I'm a guy that carries a lot of the same core guys over, because there's certain guys that are just gonna do what you need them to do. And I fell for the hype. I had no interest in C.J. Anderson before I started doing my draft research, and I watched so many people have this guy running up and doing things, and I said, man, I talked myself into it, and I bit the bullet on it when I should have just went with one of the more guys that I knew were going to come through. I took the risk thinking, man, if this guy has the season that everybody thinks he's going to have, this is a no-brain pick right here.
Right, that's right.
And it wasn't.
And
it was not.
I got to go in a minute, but
absolutely. Give me some guys real quick. Guys are running, looking for saving their lives or perhaps continuing their run this weekend. Who do you got highlighted here for guys on the way out?
Well, yeah, you look at the Patriots. Danny Amendola is a guy a lot of people dropped when he got hurt. He's a great. He's still unowned in about 20% of ESPN leagues. He needs to be owned in every league for obvious reasons. He may not play this week, but he's going to be great down the stretch, because he will probably be the number 1 guy in New England when he's healthy. And Scott Chandler, obviously. He's not going to put up Gronk numbers, but at the same time, he could put up 70 yards on a score any given week, given how they utilize him. I mentioned David Johnson before. I'm looking also in Miami. They fired the offensive coordinator. Ryan Tannehill has severely underperformed. On my blog last week, I talked about how he was going to be a top 8 quarterback in week 12. I got a lot of flack for that because he was going into the Meadowlands facing the Jets, and he comes out with 3 touchdowns. So, I'm a big fan of Tannehill as a much higher upside quarterback, a must-start in 2 quarterback leagues, and a great situational start, including this week against Baltimore. The rest of the way, he was a top, I think he was 9th best quarterback last year. And along those lines, Devontae Parker slides into number 2. He's a rookie, sky-high potential, playing opposite Jarvis Landry. A lot of guys are picking him up, but a lot of people aren't. I think if you've been holding on to Stephon Diggs, waiting for him to come back around, if you've been holding on to Malcolm Floyd, hoping that he comes back, forget it. Grab Devontae Parker, get your 80-yard, potential guy with an occasional touchdown, and feel comfortable you've got a guy you can plug into that flex spot.
Let me ask you a quick question. Give me a couple names off the top of your head. End of the season, there's always those teams that you just look for anybody if you need streamers who are playing against this team, that team, this team. I would personally put the Browns in that category. A couple of other teams that you say, hey, if you need somebody, look for the guys playing against these teams.
I've been pushing people to pick up Seahawks players toward the end of the season because they face the Ravens and the Browns and one other matchup in weeks 14 through 16. The Seahawks are a team to start consolidating. Stephen Baldwin's shown that he's stepped up to become a more dependable receiver. Luke Wilson is the backup tight end now that Jimmy Graham's gone. Is almost a must-have. You got to see how he's going to be utilized. But if you're desperate for a tight end, again, the matchups say, and the fact that the Seahawks are no lock to get into the postseason suggests that when they get into those weeks 14 through 16, they're going to be putting up probably their biggest point totals of the season.
All right, my man. Let's see what happens. We'll talk next week, catch up, and look at how your run through the playoffs is going. I know you got to go. Thank you so much once again, BJ, Fantasy Football for Winners.
Love it. And I said Stephen Baldwin, I meant Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin,
yeah. Suggest that he's a member of the Baldwin acting clan. So,
all right, my man. You have a great week, and I will catch up with you next week, my friend.
All right, J-Rocc. Good talking to you. Take care. Man.
You got it. BJ Rudell. You guys, he had to run, but make sure you check out his blog, Fantasy Football for Winners, on Facebook. It's always right there, handy guide for you. You can tweet at BJ Rudell anytime. He'll answer your questions all the way up until game time. You can send them to us. We'll forward them to him, whatever you want. It's a great resource. And as I said, a lot of guys coming down either in the playoffs or coming. I know the Sports Fix League is right down the home stretch here, too. I see it's Cleveland Kate and Charles Morgan are the top 2 record getters so far here in the regular season. My son, little Jerry, I believe, is 3rd, and I'm coming up right underneath him 4th, and then everybody else is kind of fallen in rank. They're still fighting for the last 2 playoff spots, 6 teams. Somebody is going to win the Sports Fix Fantasy Football Championship belt. Incredibly beautiful belt here from our friends at Fantasy Jocks, America's Fantasy Sports Superstore. Cannot wait to award that to somebody, and I hope I don't win it. I want one of you guys to win it. We'll see. Maybe Cleveland Kate becomes the first female winner of the Sports Fix Fantasy Challenge. Maybe Charles Morgan gets the job done. Who knows? Maybe father meets son and son puts him in his place. There's a lot of ways this could go. Be a lot of fun. And I'm hoping in some of my other leagues, not to encourage that sort of thing, but I'm hoping to get my money back at least in one of my other leagues and recoup some of my losses there. We'll talk some more with BJ next week, you guys. A lot of football here this weekend. Of course, the Browns and the Bengals is the one here in Cleveland. That one's coming up on Sunday from the Factory of Sadness, as they have gotten around to calling it here. And, of course, around the NFL, you got a lot of playoff races still starting to work themselves down there. Somebody in the NFC East, by default, has to go to the playoffs, even though none of them seem to want to. The whole damn division's under 500. There's a lot of interesting questions this week. Obviously, it started with a bang last night, guys. You had the Packers and the Detroit Lions in that one. You got the Battle of New York coming up on Sunday, the Jets and the Giants. Arizona, St. Louis, Arizona looking to continue to try to lock things up and push Seattle perhaps out of the playoffs. Seattle's just 6-5, as BJ was just talking about, and they've got a tough one coming up here. They got Minnesota at Minnesota. Minnesota, the surprise, I think, of the league, 8-3. Atlanta and Tampa Bay coming up. Houston and Buffalo, that's an important one for the playoff hopes of both of those teams, especially Houston. That AFC South is right there, open for anybody. You got the Ravens and the Dolphins, Jacksonville and Tennessee, a couple of draft pick games there. Same with Chicago, although, hey, Chicago's sitting in a division with nobody that wants to win. San Francisco, Chicago, Denver, San Diego. Denver looking to stay on track. There should be Osweiler going. Once again, San Diego's season kind of falling apart, petering out for those guys. Kansas City and Oakland out in the West. Carolina looking to go 12-0. They've got the New Orleans Saints. I would think that will get ugly quickly just because that defense over there for the Saints can't stop anybody. And it'll be interesting to see how much traction Drew Brees and that offense can get against that rugged Carolina defense. Philly and New England, that should be interesting as the Patriots look to bounce back from their first loss of the season to take on Chip Kelly, who's supposed to be on the hot seat up there. Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, that's your Sunday night game. And again, that's a playoff game caliber standings-wise. You got both teams at 6-5, and the division most likely wrapped up for Cincinnati here, especially if they get the win this weekend. That would at least clinch a tie for the division for them. But either way, wild cards, you got the division for the Colts at play. That's going to be a big one. And then Monday night, Dallas at Washington. Washington, with a win, would move into sole position there in first place in the East. So a big slate of games coming up this weekend, and we'll talk about all of them, including the Browns and the Bengals on Monday. By the way, if you need to ask my pick, I don't give the Browns a chance in hell to win. I will be that guy to admit that up front. I want them to win. I hope they do. I'm going to watch the game, and I'm going to hope to see something. I just caught a piece during the break of Mike Pettine's press conference talking about Austin Davis. He said if Davis doesn't do well this week, it won't be for a good week of practice and preparation. He said that it's been a great week that way and that the kid's ready to go. Said if he doesn't do well, it won't be for lack of anything on that end. So we'll see how they do. This is a tough Cincy squad. They're 9-2. They handled the Browns no joke a few weeks ago, and they're looking for playoff positioning too. So I don't think the Browns have a chance. They are at home. That always tilts the thing just a little bit, and I just think they're broken. Even if you think they had a shot, I think they're broken. I don't see a way to bounce back from such a crappy way to end that game on Monday. I just think it's a short week, and even if you thought they had a shot, the way that game ended pretty much got to break the spirit. If it doesn't, then y'all need to shut up about Mike Pettin. If Mike Pettin, y'all wanted to say he doesn't motivate guys, does motivate guys, that squad comes out and finds a way to win this game on Sunday, then that's all you need to say, hey, I think Mike Pettin comes back for another season. Like, I think that would answer that question right there. I'm not advocating it or expecting it or even saying I think it's a remote possibility. But if it does, then that's a big check mark in Mike Pettin coming back. We'll see how they play against the Bengals on Sunday. Dan Wismar will be here on Monday to talk about it, as will Dan Coughlin joining us to talk about Let's Have Another. We'll talk some Cleveland sports history. We'll get his take on things now, which I'll tell you what, his take on the Browns was awful in 2012 when we talked, or 2013. It's equally as awful now, no doubt about it. But we'll get a chance to catch up with Dan, and 12 Days of Christmas continues. You can pick up another copy of a Cleveland book. This one's going to be Dan Coughlin's Let's Have Another. Don't forget, all weekend long, if you want to win a copy of Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee, share the show you're listening to, tag me in it, take a shot, send it to me, however you got to do it. Let me know you did it, and come Monday, we're going to announce the winner. One of you guys is going to get in the mail, coming your way, a copy of Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee. So a lot of things to look forward to on Monday when we come back from the weekend, including talking about the Cavaliers as they're looking to get back on the schneid a bit, as you say. Tough loss to the Wizards. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I think that was the first true loss of the season, for like true loss. I mean, not that they didn't lose games, but they just got beat. John Wall wanted it. He went out there and had a hell of a game. LeBron had an uncharacteristic game. It kind of looked like the LeBron of the early part of last year with too many turnovers, trying to make too much happen. I saw something from ESPN this morning saying, David Blatt got some hot seat. He's playing LeBron too many minutes again. I disagree. I think that that's a problem that hasn't been too bad early on, and it will continue to alleviate itself as more players come back. Speaking of, Kyrie Irving practiced, cleared, full to practice now. Got his first one under his belt this week. Should be a matter of getting back into game shape, and then we will see Kyrie Irving here relatively soon making his return. Shumpert will be back too. You'll get some more depth, and LeBron will be able to sit. But, of course, here we are 18 games into the season, and people have to find some controversy to talk about. The Cavs, 13-5. They head on the road for a southern trip this weekend. They got the Pelicans of New Orleans tonight. Then they've got the Heat and the old friends of the LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade super trio there getting together in Miami. Cavaliers 13-5, Pelicans 4-15 in this one here. Not sure. I hadn't gotten a status update. Looks like Anthony Davis is back in the rotation. He had gotten banged up a few days ago for the Pelicans. He's a big load, that's for sure. Matter of fact, his last time out there against Houston, they lost, but Davis had a big double-double, 30 points, 13 rebounds, and that's a big load there for Mozgov and the Bigs to keep under. New Orleans last year was the surprise team. They really came up, made a run, hit the playoffs for the first time, and I think it was it 5 years? It was a while. But anyways, this year, the exact opposite. They are struggling. They're at the bottom of the conference. They are a dozen games under 500, and it's definitely been a rough start of the season for the Pelicans. They'll get Tyreke Evans, continues to come back. He's had 2 games so far since he was out from the start of the season. He lost his first month of the season to a knee injury. He's been back for a couple of games now. He's looking to continue to improve things for them as they try to get back to full strength and win a game here. Meanwhile, like I said, Cavs looking to bounce back from their first home loss of the season. 97-85, that game they dropped to the Wizards the other day. Cavaliers shot a horrible 33% for the game and had 19 turnovers as a team. And again, LeBron had 9, and that was one shy of his career worst as far as turnovers. That's a blip on the radar, not the type of thing that you can anticipate happening on a regular basis. Let's see how the Cavs get out here. I'd like to see how they start the game, the pace that they put out there, and then, of course, coming out on a back-to-back on Saturday is tough for any team, and hopefully they can come out here. If nothing worse, you expect them to split, but I'd really like to see the Cavaliers come back home, taking both of the games here this weekend. We'll talk about both of them here on Monday as we come back as well. Monsters have a double shot at the Q going on this weekend. Next week, we'll get Tony Brown in on the conversation. Speaking of clarifying the schedule, next week, you guys, instead of Monday and Friday, my schedule now shifts at the Ohio Center for Broadcasting. So we will remain 2 days a week, but it will now be Monday and Wednesday going forward instead of Monday and Friday. So next week we'll be here Monday, and then we'll be here on Wednesday. We'll get Tony Brown in the conversation on Wednesday, and we'll have a great show. We'll try to catch back up with Mike, maybe see what Jonathan Knight's got going on. Perhaps he can join us. But next week it will be Monday and Wednesday, as I'll be teaching class on Friday of next week, and that will be the new rotation of things going forward, except for the weeks that I have weeks off from the school, and then I'll gladly jump back in here and add another day of the week. So all of that is still to come next week. Cannot wait, you guys. In the meantime, you got tons of things to get into, including Buckeyes fans keeping an eye on the Big Ten championship game, as obviously that's going to be of some importance. Meanwhile, the Buckeyes sit number 6. It's not happening, but if USC and Florida win, perhaps that is the only set of circumstances that might open up the door for the Ohio State Buckeyes to get in. I will say this, Dan Wismar sent me a message from a buddy of his in Vegas who is never wrong about these things, he said. He is never wrong about these things. He said it's a lock. The conference, the competition committee at the Rose Bowl has already made their decision. If the Buckeyes do not get into the playoff, they will be the team going to Pasadena and playing in the Rose Bowl. So take that for what it is, and we'll talk to Dan about that information on Monday. We'll know if it's even in the realm of possibility, depending on what happens on Championship Saturday. Guys, all of that's coming your way and more. Don't forget, Dan Coughlin, Dan Wismar, both joining me live on Monday, same bat time, same bat channel, live at noon across the Sports Fix Radio Network. My voice is just holding on here at the end. We made it until the end. We went Broadway. Now we're going to take it to the house. Guys, thank you for joining us. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a hell of a weekend. Get back here on Monday, and let's do the Sports Fix thing right here, live at noon Monday. We'll see you then. Have a great one, guys.
Here we go. Welcome to the Cleveland show, but this ain't no cartoon. Reality is all we know. You're tuning in to Bravo. Yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal. You can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Modell tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them kids to cardiac. Rock Hall, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra.
Cold weather, it ain't nothing pretty. So much hate up in this city, bitty city. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Put your hands up in the air, everybody say yeah.